Hello everybody, it's Sarah, and today I am going to talk about The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. If you have spent any time on the bookish social medias in the past few months, you will probably know that this book has been absolutely everywhere. There was so much hype around this pre-release, and so first of all it really intrigued me, and it's an adult high fantasy standalone. I think I never read a fantasy standalone, and once I heard that it also features a female-female relationship, I just had to pick it up because I'm just always on the lookout for fantasy books with hopefully good representation. But anyways, before I get more into my thoughts, as most of my review videos, this one will be split into two parts. First, I will share a bit more spoiler-free review, so if you haven't read the book, you can definitely watch that part of the video. And later on, I want to go a bit more in-depth on my thoughts on this book and share a few spoilers, a few scenes that I enjoyed, all that type of stuff. But I will tell you beforehand, so if you haven't read this book, again, you're welcome to just watch the first part of this video. Now I am going to put this book down because I can already feel my arm cramping because it's so freaking heavy, and yeah, I'll just leave this down here for now. First, a bit more on the plot. Long ago, there was this huge beast called the Nameless One that almost destroyed the world. Luckily, it was defeated and banished, but now 1,000 years later, it seems like this beast might be waking up again and is coming back to destroy the world again. And so the plot follows different characters as they prepare for this horrible apocalypse type thing. And that is basically all you have to know about the plot. I gave this book a total of 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, so I did really enjoy it. There were some really good parts and there were some parts that I didn't enjoy as much, and I'm just going to start with the negatives and then move on to the positives. The first negative is that out of 4 POV characters, I only really liked one of them. Like 2 of them I absolutely couldn't stand, but I still enjoyed their POVs. One character just got on my nerves, high key, and I didn't enjoy reading her POVs. And then one of the characters, which luckily was the one with most POV chapters, I really liked and I really enjoyed. So it didn't take away from my reading experience, but I just still thought that it's kind of a negative that out of 4 characters I disliked 3. My second negative point is that, as I said, this book features a female-female relationship, and I did overall enjoy the relationship, but it did start quite abrupt. We have interactions between those 2 characters from the very beginning, but you don't really see the relationship develop. And then from one chapter to the other, they are suddenly in love. And that's just something where I'm like, didn't really enjoy that. Could have definitely been done better. And then my third big negative point, which actually was the main point that bumped the book down 1 star for me, was the ending. The pacing of the story overall started quite slow, and then it picks up pace as it goes along. The slow start didn't really bother me. It's a high fantasy novel, it's to be expected. Like, if you don't enjoy slow starting books, don't read high fantasy books, to be honest. So that's not what bothered me, and I really enjoyed the way it picked up pace. But then it didn't slow down again towards the end, which I feel would have been needed, because the ending basically was the last 50 pages of an 800-page book. So the pacing just wasn't really well done for the ending. It was way too quick, it was way too sudden. And then it was also the ending in general, the plot of the ending, that I didn't really enjoy, but of course I can't go into that here because that would be spoilers. But yeah, the ending just didn't do it for me. Then I have one point that both has positives and negatives. I really enjoyed the world building in this book. You kind of have 3 different factions. You have the West that is very medieval European inspired, you have the East that is very much Eastern Asian inspired, and then you have the South that reminded me a lot of Northern Africa, like Morocco, Tunisia, these types of cultures. And the thing I enjoyed is that there wasn't too much, in a way, unique world building or world building that was unique to the world. It was based a lot on what we know from our own history and from our own countries or our own imagination of certain countries. So I enjoyed that because I felt like a lot of world building wasn't necessary. But what I didn't like about that same thing as well was that I felt like there was very much an imbalance between the West, the East and the South. The West was very much thought through. We knew a lot of what was going on. That was partly also because we spent the most time there. But the East and the South just felt unfinished. Like, we spent a lot of time in Seiki, I think that country was called, but we didn't really get anything of the politics of that country. We got a little bit, but it just felt like tidbits and it could have just had a bit more, and the same also goes for the South. Now, for the positive things, the first, of course, is the representation when it comes to sexuality. I think especially in high fantasy, especially in adult high fantasy, we don't see that many books with main characters that aren't straight, or at least not in mainstream publishing. So that I absolutely loved. So of course there was our main female-female relationship, and then there also was one gay relationship, which we didn't see too much of because it was mostly in flashbacks. The second positive thing that I really liked was the representation of different ethnicities, which I just enjoy, not just because of diversity reasons, although of course that is very important, but I just think that it always makes a fantasy book more interesting if you have different people from different parts of the world, from very different cultures, because that just makes the interactions a lot more interesting between those characters. And so since the different parts of the world of the book kind of correspond with different parts of our world, or were inspired by different parts of our world, the people that came from those parts of that world, of course, also had different ethnicities. And then the third thing I really liked was the plot in general. It very much is a very basic plot, like you just have a lot of people trying to defeat the big evil, but there definitely was enough unique stuff that I wouldn't say this book is like this or that book that I have already read. I just very much enjoy those type of fantasy books that take a for fantasy very typical plot, but still manage to change it enough to make something new out of it. And that definitely was the case with this book. And overall, I just would say definitely go and pick this book up. There were some things that I didn't enjoy as much, but overall I would still highly recommend it. I would especially recommend it if you only started reading fantasy. Yes, it's very big. Yes, it's pretty long. But the thing about this book is you have a lot of things that you already are familiar with, because there are those connections made between our world and that world, so you don't have that much world building to get into. And also it's only a standalone, so I feel like it would be a bit less daunting to pick up this book and to know you can try this book and you can get through this book, and once you're done with that book, the series is done and you don't have to then read 5 other 600 to 800 page books as well. And yeah, that was it for my spoiler-free review, and now let me get into the spoilers. So if you have not read the book, you're welcome to stay, but be aware that there are going to be spoilers. Okay, first thing, I really didn't like Love from pretty much the first chapter on. He is so self-righteous, and I just hate characters who are all about honor, honor, honor. I have to be so self-righteous. And how do you grow up at court and then be that stupid that the first time you're at a foreign court, you manage to insult the monarch or like the princess of that court twice? I mean, you were lucky that she was on your side, but why? I don't understand. I really didn't like him. I also really didn't like Roos, but I think you're not supposed to like Roos, so that's okay. And I really thought that Tane would be my favorite character when I started the book, but she turned out to be one of the characters that annoyed me most. She also was like really self-righteous and arrogant in a way that I just couldn't vibe with her at all. So the only character that I really liked was Aed from the main 4 characters. And otherwise, I also really liked Sabran. I also really liked Meg. I think Meg probably was my favorite character. I have this weird thing where I just latch onto characters that barely appear in the books. And with my luck, most of the time they're the characters that are also killed off at the end. But luckily that wasn't the case with Meg. So yeah, that's kind of where my thoughts on the characters were. I really enjoyed the difference between like the Western dragons and Wyrms and the Eastern dragons. I just love dragons, to be honest. So yeah, my favorite character probably, or my potentially favorite character, was Kabila. I forgot her name. Anyway, the witch. I really loved her when she first appeared, and I thought she would be such an amazing character. I didn't like where her story went at the end and where her arc went, but I still really like her. Like, that woman was seriously amazing, to be honest. And then lastly, because this video probably is already way too long, I just want to talk about the ending. Like, I feel like the stakes at the ending were set so high and they didn't pay off. This is gonna sound horrible, but someone should have died. Either Tanne or Ead should have died. Probably I would have been more for Tanne. I mean, Tanne, maybe she's dead, maybe she isn't. For me, she isn't. Unless you tell me a character is dead and I see a fucking funeral, I don't think a character is dead. Especially if it's at the end of a book like that. I just don't like that. But anyway, even if she's dead, she should have died during the fight. You can't go up against a huge fire-breathing monster and not have like at least one of the characters going up against that monster die. I mean, for a second I thought maybe at least her dragon died, but no, not even her dragon died. And if no one died, at least one of them should have gotten permanently scarred. Then Roose should have definitely died. He was like almost dead 5 times. So you should have killed him off, or Loth, like either Roose or Loth should have died, definitely. But at the end you just have that one character that appeared 2 times, I think it was Meg's fiancé, that died at the end of that huge fight. And I'm just like, why? That's... I know it's really weird to complain that not enough people died in a book, but I'm angry that not enough people died. Also, when it comes to death, she really didn't deal with character death very well. Like, we had the deaths of Kit and Susa, right? And both of them felt like Samantha Shannon was trying to show like how high the stakes are, but that just doesn't work if you kill off 2 characters that you tried very much to make us care about through the POV characters, but that were both basically killed off in the second chapter they appeared in. So, like, I honestly didn't care at all. And then we moved on so quickly, especially from Kit's death. Like, I cared about Susa's death a bit more, but still not really. Anyway, that was kind of like the things that I didn't enjoy that much. But what I absolutely loved were like that bird and that big cat. I don't know, I imagine it in my head to look kind of like a lion or something. Like that worm killing predator thing. I really loved those. And I also really loved how strong all the women were in that book. Like the fact that you had a medieval inspired society, the Virtudom. And usually when you have those types of societies in books, women are very much oppressed. And I didn't feel like that was the case in Virtudom. It felt like women and men very much were equal to each other in all things. So I really enjoyed that part. But anyway, that was it. That was all on my review. If you enjoyed it, please maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and also maybe subscribing. Tell me all your thoughts on this book in the comments down below. Did you like it as much as I did? Did you have the same problems with it as I did? All the links to my social media, as always, are also in the description box down below, so go and check those out. And I really hope I'll see you soon. Bye!